How do I deal with compromised credentials? Cry. I bought a forest for this purpose. I can cry alone. Don't be bothered. I'll just point in the answer.
Do I need to own all the stuff I posted? I want to I created my file, and then I thought I made a copy for data. And do I need to own all everything? Because maybe if my file was attached to only one relay, only that really, if the relay is broken, all my stuff will
So your question is about like your data being hosted, and if you're the example that you gave is I created my profile. It existed for 10 years. I've done a whole bunch of stuff in that 10 years. It only existed on this one particular relay. Now that relay shuts down, is my stuff gone? Yes. We're not in the business of selling magic. We're not actually in the business of selling anything. There's nothing to sell. It's an open protocol. But yes, there's no magic. The point is that you're flexible, so you can actually just you can host it redundantly on another relay. You can save a copy. So let's take this. So you use a relay right out in the open, a more public relay. But you can save all these files, and you can save them locally on your computer. And now that relay is gone, you can just re-upload everything on another relay, because you're like I said, you're not time constricted anymore. So if it's like if there's 10 days in between, if there's 1,000 years in between, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's not. We're not in the business of selling magic. Data has to be hosted. It has to be on a drive somewhere that is connected to the internet.
Hi, I've been given a mic, so I'm
perfect. Yes, that's better.
I hope this isn't repeating the first question, but so because the identity is your public key is your identity, then presumably there's no mechanism for key rotation, and therefore if you lose your key or it's compromised, that's it, you just have to scrap it and start over.
So the thing, basically what you're asking for is that you're not solving the problem, you're just moving the problem one step forward. The thing is that the answer is you can do whatever. You can create a key rotation standard, and you can implement that and you can start using it. It's just going to be, you're adding complexity that you cannot be assured that the rest of the network is actually going to, the only thing that you can assure that everybody else can follow is this do or die key, right? Now, I'm not going to leave you dead in the water right there completely. So one of the things that I got out of the presentation, I'll just address now before we get like 10 other key management questions, is the first thing is that the use of public-private keys for the masses didn't really happen for a very long time. It's been used for a very long time. We have PGP keys. And the only people using PGP keys are like the crazy people sitting in this room, right? Nobody's mom ever used PGP keys. Now, the thing is that with the advent of Bitcoin, basically, this forced or introduced basically a larger industry of managing these public-private keys, where now millions of people actually do manage these public-private keys for their money, right? There's serious value going on, and apparently it's good enough for them to manage money. So now our question here is it also good enough for our identity? And if it's just shit posting online, it's fine, right? If it's very, very super duper serious and we're the president of some country, maybe we can consider some key rotation scheme, right? So, but there's also like a spectrum of application going on here. Also coming on with that fact is that because we have an industry that is trying to service key management for the masses, they're also trying to develop best practices and hardware wallets and all that type of stuff, and also actual cryptographic research. So because we're using cryptography at the core, we can actually start using these cryptographic magic schemes of threshold signatures and all this type of stuff, and we actually have it implemented. So if you go to start.njump.me, you have a nice onboarding sequence, and in that onboarding sequence, it gives you the option to split up your key basically, and you get a link, and now you can use this link instead of using your private key directly. I'm not going to go into explaining that completely, but these are like mitigating factors. The last one is that there's a generational component to this, right? If you've grown up with this stuff, it's a lot easier than if you're like an old fart already and have to change everything you do or change the way you think and start into managing these keys. So it's also a matter of time until a lot more people are more comfortable in dealing with this stuff. All right, next question.
Yeah, I just want to say, because I never heard of your thing, protocol.
That's
I
right.
want to say it's really great because it's a big fight, for the freedom and to put down these big tech guys. Those they call the Twitter, Facebook, and things. So it should be free and it should be for everyone. So I just wanted to say that, and I will try to use it and to build some apps using your thing. So it looks really good.
Yeah, it's just JSON. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. It's really, but it's really cool. It smells like a Bitcoin thing, like chain things, like you spread all around the web things. But it's really good. I really think that there is no one place where you keep and sell stuff. It's just everywhere. So
Right.
very cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. You said that you don't have to trust relays, and so whoever gives you the data, you only check the signature and you rely on that.
Yeah.
Is there something that prevents me from, as a relay, providing fake data to make people lose time until they verify the signature? If there is a huge amount of data, and if you have no way to discriminate relays from one another.
Well, you do have ways of discriminating relays one and another. Because they're just different servers, right? So you make an explicit WebSocket connection to one particular relay. And if you're getting consistently get junk, I guess you just stop using that relay.
As a client,
Yeah.
you can specifically include or exclude some relays.
Yeah, yes, very much so, yeah. To some extent you kind of have to. To some extent you, depending on what kind of application you use. So it's, for instance, it's very similar to, if you think of these relay feeds, like if you think it from the perspective of relay feeds and not like the NPOP model of just following people and picking whatever relay that they use, but specifically following a relay, it becomes very much like RSS, right? But instead, it's very much like RSS, but now all the stuff is signed.
Thanks for your talk. Is there an economic incentive for running a relay?
It depends on what you're doing. So there can be an economic incentive by simply having a paywall for your, like asking payment for your relay. I use a paid relay because the incentive for me is that it gives me a certain amount of trust that they're going to be there next year. Also, it can also be, people run servers or businesses run servers and they're not directly being paid for running those servers. It's just part of their business, right? And they actually get paid for something else, but they need, that they need running a server. Also, it depends on what you're doing. Running a server, like running a web server basically, is not necessarily a whole much of a cost thing. Like, unless you're YouTube. Right? If you're YouTube, it's like different. But YouTube is like the hardest problem out there, basically. But there are a lot of simpler things. Maybe as a weather app, I don't know how heavy it's going to be as a weather app to run that service. But maybe you just sell your weather subscriptions and you pay for the relay just based on the fact that you're running a business. So I have no specific answer to that question. It's 2025, the internet has existed for a long time now. and servers are actually running, and in a lot of cases, nobody's directly paying for much of anything, so I don't know. Hopefully we'll figure it out.
Is there a versioning story, such as if the encryption needs to be updated, the algorithms need to be updated, or anything like that?
My answer is basically just like the same thing. If your keys are compromised, is cry. If Schnorr is compromised, I guess we'll also have to we'll just have to cry. Like implicit, like I'd say, in terms of like, is it implemented in the protocol? I don't think so. No. It's just that as users, if the crypto is broken, we're going to have to use different crypto. Hopefully, we can settle on a new crypto at that stage.
Yeah.
For the version number in the base phone, which version number you're using and which algorithm you use?
So what you're saying is that you could just run a version number on things. I guess the thing is you're basically running. I guess you can specify. It could have been specified in the kind already, right? You can just use a different kind number. If you're saying, okay, we're using different events on a different standard, we'll just give it another kind. That's another way of tackling the problem as well. Any other questions?
Hi, to paraphrase, you said that because it was too complicated for normies to set up a website and have to mirror them, they were driven into techno-feudalism. How does this solve for that? How does it make things less complicated?
The thing is that you can shop for your landlord. I guess that's the point, right? The thing with the techno-feudalism is that, and this is the point about being stuck to a location, is that they own the territory. The thing with the internet is that in the internet we're not actually bound by space. But it's only because we're going to these specific platforms, we're now are bound by space, namely the space of their server. And the whole thing is that you can always just put a net server next to it, and now we've created a whole bunch of new space, right? So the way you solve the problem that you're positing here is the techno-feudalism is that we're not space constricted anymore. You can just put another server next to it, and now we've created more land.
But in a sense, you could always do that, it was just complex. To set up many mirrors, to have proxies and relays and all sorts of things. The whole point is that the reason people didn't do that was they were then driven to the central landlord and said, forget it, I can't
Yes,
do
but
it.
the problem
How
is-
does it solve for that simplicity? How's another going to use this?
Yes, so that was the whole central thesis of the presentation, is that you're now stuck in this vertical, and with Nostr, you solve for it, is that we've now got network effect over all these servers. So the network effect is not captured in the server anymore. So I get what you're saying, it's like, okay,
Complexity. I'm focusing on the complexity. How does this relieve complexity so that normies will do that?
let's assume that it doesn't relieve any complexity. I mean, running a relay can be as simple as just running a Raspberry Pi. But let's assume that it's not, and it's still going to be 5 servers. The whole point of the protocol is that your network, your identity in your network is not stuck on one of each of these 5 servers or 6 servers. I don't have 6 separate accounts at Facebook, Instagram, and these places. I just have one profile that functions over all these 6 places. So that's how it solves for it. Let's assume that it doesn't, that it's still too complex and it's only going to be 6 servers. Then it's still better than what we have now. And on top of that, it's probably a lot easier to do self-host, at least for your own stuff.
Hi. Let's say this protocol blows up to the size of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. How would this decentralized relay system hold up performance-wise? Because the traffic can be really unequal, or where's the space locally? How does it hold up?
So I guess in terms of I guess my answer is going to be like a spectrum. and there's going to be probably is going to be a power law, and it's basically tied into the answer I just gave to the other question. It's fine if there is like a large chunky server for a particular use case, in order to do especially this. It's also, I have the two modes, right? I have the relay-centric thing and the npop-centric thing. So when we think about a use case from the npop, oh, I'm not sure, whatever. When we think about the use case from the npop-centric stuff, where we're just following people, and I'm just trying to figure out where I can find stuff that they're posting. Their stuff is probably distributed over a whole bunch of relays, right? So in this case, it's not that there's outside pressure from a whole bunch of people on one particular relay, because everybody is using the same relay. It's a whole bunch of people are using a whole bunch of different relays. We got a distribution of load in that case. It's more, what more happens in, or the problem more arises on the relay-centric mode of operating, where we have like a very popular relay because they're like, let's say the astronomy, we have a very popular astronomy relay that the entire world, they have billions of users on the astronomy relay. Then it's just the same way of managing the infrastructure of web hosting than it is today.
So you're saying that like large applications are incentivized to like set up more relays in order to support their own stuff?
Correct.
And then at the same time like use the whole decentralized system?
Yes. So like I mentioned, is that we are able to leverage platforms because we can still use these platforms. The problem arises that the moment we have a platform that is very popular, has a lot of users, we run this censorship risk, right? Where we actually solve for this censorship because, okay, you can be kicked off of this big platform, but you lose all your followers because you don't follow the people you follow through the relay. You follow the people you follow for the fact that you know where to find their stuff. Does that make sense?
Can I add one thing? Like, what prevents a platform from limiting the relay to only use their own stuff? As in, they have like they create like their own network, which only allows their own keys to be used for that.
Okay, so basically your question is like what prevents like an application or let's say a client. What prevents from a client that you're using on your phone to create a special relation to a relay and basically create proprietary relationship between a client and a relay when it becomes very popular, and basically start to undermine the standard of the protocol because it now becomes its own dominant standard of the protocol? The unfortunate answer is nothing, except for our own vigilance. Hopefully we can bootstrap this thing fast enough and create enough network effect among all these marginal applications in a way that it always outsizes this newcomer that wants to get big on its own, right? Because basically he starts to compete in exactly the same way that we are competing with the central platforms right now. So the moment we win against the central platforms, it's very unlikely that we're going to have to suffer this type of attack again.
Please don't speak without a microphone, it's a bit disrespectful. Thank you.
Do we have time for more questions?
Last one.
Okay.
So, hi. So you started out by the problem with the verification. If one platform goes down, then you can't verify anymore. But I don't really see. So the nice thing is that you tie everything in the message, so the message is standing on itself, but the verification does not. You do need to have somewhere where the public key is tied to the profile, and there is an authority that can ensure, like, okay, someone did not create a different duplicate of the profile, which is the new signature, and it seems to be with my face on it or yours. So how do you then still solve that problem that Yes, the relays are multiple, but then you still are tied to a single authority that needs to exist, otherwise you can't verify anymore.
No, so it's, I understand your question. The thing is that you don't need a central authority to do this. The basic way to approach this is that we're face to face now. We can exchange keys. And as long as those keys are not compromised, right? That's always the basic assumption of this stuff. But the moment those keys are not compromised, I don't need an authority to know that you are you, right? And that if you say that you're using these keys, that I can identify you based on that basis. And then if we have a bunch of people in common, we now have like a web of trust type of thing, where I maybe even trust your extended network as well. And when we have a bunch of extended networks, we're very quickly start to gather like a more large part of the population and maybe even everyone. So that's the web of trust is basically the basic answer. I'm out of time, so thank you a lot for all the questions, and see you around.